Last year, in 2019, Save the Turtles became a popular catchphrase and led to an increase in the sale of metal straws. What many people don't know about this is that it actually began as a movement which aimed to bring awareness to sea turtles and how they were being injured by plastic straws. Well, each day we all use plastic products, from straws, bottled waters, cosmetic products, food wrappers, and even takeout containers. Nearly everything is made out of plastic, and we are all guilty of using plastics. The truth is, plastic actually has negative consequences to the planet, people, and everyday processes, but there are ways we can reverse these effects. So today I'll be sharing with you the problems that plastic creates, the source of these problems, and what we can do as individuals to live more consciously and eco-friendly. To begin, what are the problems that plastic creates? Well, plastic is abundant worldwide, and so it creates this domino effects of problems, 3 of which include pollution, climate change, and harming wildlife. So let's start by looking at pollution. According to a 2018 article by the World Wildlife Fund, it states that depending on the plastic item, it carries with it a certain lifetime before it degrades. But even then, it breaks down into what is known as microplastics, plastics we cannot see. In this image right here, you can see that everyday items have their own life cycles. For instance, plastic bags is 20 years, plastic straws is 200 years, and most surprisingly of all is toothbrushes, 500 years. This means that plastics that were generated centuries ago are still on the planet and are adding up. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency actually reports every year how much plastic is generated, recycled, combusted, and landfilled. In their recent 2017 report, as you can see here, outlined in red, within the last 10 years, only 7 to 8% of all plastics generated has been recycled. The rest ends up in landfills, and even worse, the ocean. This has led to 150 million tons of plastics floating in the ocean right now, according to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation in 2017. There's even an island in the Pacific called the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which reflects just how bad the plastic problem has become. Researchers estimate by the year 2050, there will be more plastics in the ocean than fish. Can you believe that there may be more waste in some people's food supply? As plastic accumulates and breaks down slowly, it causes more bigger problems, such as climate change. We know that climate change has a variety of causes, but plastic is also one of them. In an interview in 2019, Carol Muffett of the Center of International Environmental Law stated that emissions from plastic production could account to 56 gigatons of carbon between now and 2050. This means that plastic uses a lot of fuel resources, and when it's disposed of, it generates a lot of gases that are hazardous and unhealthy for humans. In fact, Carrie Major of the World Wildlife Fund said in 2019 that 4% of petroleum production goes into making plastics, and when it's burnt, it creates byproducts such as ethylene and methane gases, 2 greenhouse gases that go into the atmosphere and warm the earth. This results in the process called the greenhouse effects, which is, as you can see here, a circular pattern that starts with us and ends with us affecting the earth and everything on it. So, along with pollution and climate change, plastic negatively impacts wildlife and their ecosystem. As I've mentioned, climate change will warm the earth, but more specifically, the ocean, which is the habitat for many sea creatures. I've learned from a previous zoology class that when the ocean is warmed, it leads to ocean acidification, which is detrimental to animals such as shellfish, who will now lose that ability to create strong calcium carbonate shells, and now are left vulnerable to predators and hazardous chemicals. In addition, according to Laura Parker of the National Geographic in her 2018 article, 40% of all the plastics that end up in the ocean are actually avoidable. Those single-use plastics, plastics we use once for packaging. This is problematic as marine creatures will be drawn to these plastics and get tangled in them. But even worse, they mistake it for food and will eat and swallow them, but can't digest it, so it's fatal. Can you imagine what it's like for these poor sea creatures to already have trouble surviving in the wild and then have to deal with human problems? Along with these problems come the cause, which is us, humans. Ever since plastics production in 1862 and its mass production in 1907, people are still finding ways to dispose of it and are not successful. According to an article published in Environmental Health Perspectives in 2015, people living in coastal countries are the greatest offenders of plastic debris. As you can see here, these are the countries, and the US is ranked number 20. What these countries have in common are three things. One, large population, meaning large amounts of garbage. Two, the generation of a lot of plastics. And three, disposal systems which are inefficient in managing plastics. As you can see, we have created major environmental concerns, so we are all ethically and morally responsible. So what are the solutions? For one thing, we can increase our consciousness. Understanding and learning about our habits now is the first step. After that is taking action. Any visible actions such as investing in reusables, avoiding plastics as much as possible. Any alternative to plastic is better. Did you know that one reusable water bottle saves 156 plastic bottles each year? Grocery stores are also taking in on this initiative by taxing us 10 cents for plastic bags to really reinforce that idea of reusing. Some people may say one piece of plastic won't make a difference, but it does. If we lived a life without plastics, we would not be making any harms. But the most important thing that we can do is cleaning after ourselves, volunteering in park and beach cleanups, picking up trash off the ground when we see it, and just putting things in the right bins. I know some people might not care and will continue to use plastic out of its convenience and durability, but the truth is we need to think about our sustainability now. What we do now affects future generations and their means of production. In conclusion, I have talked about the problems that plastic has, the core of the problem, which is us, and the ways we can fix these problems. Well, each of us has our own role, no matter how small, so it's important that we all understand ours. So today, join me in boycotting plastics, and together we can beautify the planet and ultimately save the turtles. Thank you.